The success of any organization is often defined by the cultures and dynamics established right from the start. Part of a leader's role is to set the team up in such a way that it can materialize vision, maximize its strengths, and navigate through pressure.
Building your team up may seem daunting, and so there's really great benefit from comparing notes with and learning from fellow leaders. Guess what? We've invited two big-time leaders in their student organizations to join us in our discussion, to share with us their best practices and their experiences in creating synergy in their teams.
My name is Aaron. I'm an accountancy major, a student leader, and a highly stressed out student just like yourself.
This is JR, and thank you for listening to Ain't a Bus.
Alright, welcome back everyone to another episode of Ain't a Boss, the only leadership podcast for highly stressed out students. Again, my name's Aaron, and together with me is my partner in crime and in leadership, my mentor, JR.
Yes, hello.
And today's episode is actually titled Building Your Team Up, and we've actually have a special treat, if you would say, for you guys, because we've invited some student leaders to be our guests for today.
I'm so excited actually for this
So,
episode.
JR, just to give a short introduction to them before I reveal them, but I think you can already see their faces. This is actually UAAP Season 84 Podcast Edition. So if you're wondering what that means, no, we don't have students from all 8 UAAP schools, but we do have two guests from one of the more prominent rivalries or rival
Yes.
schools in the UAAP. So without further ado, JR, let me just take this honor.
Go ahead. I'm actually
introduce
excited
them.
because of that dynamic. No, joke lang.
But yeah, without further ado, let me introduce our two guests for today. So first off, from De La Salle University, we actually have with us the president of the De La Salle University Student Government. And we have from Ateneo, the president of the Ateneo Management Association.
Yo.
So, JR, let's welcome our guests, Giorgina Escoto and Gab Castillo.
All
Thanks for being
right.
here on Ain't a Boss.
Hello everyone.
Georgina.
Hi Aaron. Hi JR.
Hi,
Kamusta
Gab.
naman kayo?
Hello.
Okay naman.
Yeah,
Good.
Just started in DLSU, so starting with the third year with being president, and it's been overwhelming pero kaya naman. Looking forward to the rest of the academic year ahead.
Yeah,
Laban.
great.
Love that. For me naman, I've been... Well, it's like technically 1 month na lang until the SEM ends. Actually, from this date, we end December 18th. And then, as for my presidency, I've been president since mga April pa. So, it's been quite a while, almost halfway. Pero, kakayanin. Can't wait for the Christmas break.
So I actually like to hear from both of you, Georgina and Gab. Maybe you could give us a short introduction of yourselves, maybe in the context of the organization you're leading. For Georgina, the Student Council of LaSalle, and for Gab, Ateneo Management Association. Yeah.
So, in the University Student Government of DLSU, basically it's the representative of the students when it comes to all university matters and in handling student life in general. So, as president, well, as an officer in the USG, I've been an elected officer since I was a freshman in college, and it's been an experience because I got to talk to a lot of students already, got to consult with them. And one unique thing, I guess, in the university student government is that all student leaders enter the USG with a vision. So there's really a vision that it's not only marketed in a sense, but it's something that we really believe in, and it's something that we promise to deliver for for our tenure. So for this year, our vision for the executive board, and which is what we're doing right now, we're trying to do right now, is one with the students and together for the nation. So we understand that in DLSU, you really have to be able to listen and understand the everyday experiences of the students in order to help them out with their academics, with their finances, with other needs, and also in cultivating their sense of citizenry, I guess, in the Philippines. So really trying to do that in the USG, and as president, that's the student government that I wish to lead. So
Nice.
yeah,
Kailangan ngayon. It's
yup,
coming up.
I agree.
Right, right.
Grabe naman yun, Georgina. Baka lipat na ako sa Lasal. Pagkatapos ko marinig yung sales pitch mo. But yeah, hi, I'm Gab. So, I'm the president of the Ateneo Management Association. So, AMA is the home org for all current and previous management and management honor students, as well as those taking the management minor. So we're exclusive to that student body. And I think it's a little different from Georgina because we just focus on a certain amount of students. Although management is one of the biggest courses in
For sure.
Ateneo. And as president, I also work with her counterpart in Ateneo to relay the concerns of the student body in management to Sangu and work together with all the other offices to
Right.
try to give the students in management the best experience that they can.
Yeah.
So I guess
So Sangu is like the student government, the council of Ateneo as well, right?
yes, yes.
So it's like the USG, but in Ateneo.
Yes, yes.
Right, right. Could you give us any idea on the number of students you're actually leading?
So in the USG, it's divided into units. So there's the executive board, the colleges, and the batch government. So directly, I'm handling around 60 people in my office, in the office of the president. But in the executive board, recently found out that the number is at around 433. And that
Wow.
doesn't include
Wow.
governments and batch government.
Crazy.
All in all, if you combine all those units, I guess we're nearing 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So
Oh.
yeah, really divided into units because there are a lot of students. I think
Yeah.
we're 19,000 in
Yep.
Right.
gathered.
And
So,
growing, I guess.
Yup.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So indirectly, all of those 19,000 students are somehow affected by your work.
Yup.
The work of the
Like you
60
said.
people around you. Sounds
Yeah,
like a lot
definitely.
of pressure, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Georgina's up to the task. You're up to the task anyway for that.
For sure.
So
And experience-wise, like it's been good that she's
Yeah.
been in the government for almost every
Quite some
year.
time, yeah.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
This is my third year actually, ever since I was proshkas. So
Yes.
yeah.
That helps. At least you know what you're getting yourself into.
Parang hindi nga eh.
surprise.
I guess you'll
19,000.
never know talaga.
Yeah.
Okay, I think for me, okay, not as big as Georgina, but currently I am overseeing 638
Wow.
members in our organization. So, as mentioned earlier, AMA is one of the biggest organizations in Ateneo. But given that we are a home org, so we cater also to our course mates. Not you don't have to join our org kasi to be
You guys don't
served
care about them.
by us. So I serve around 900 to 1,000 management to
Wow.
management honors
That's a big course.
students. Yeah, it's a pretty big course. Around 10 blocks to 11 blocks per
Wow.
year. So around 40 to 45 blocks with around 25 to 30 people
Right.
per
Wow.
block.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
I'm curious to know, do you guys have any priorities, say, when you're leading the teams around you, when you go into meetings, or when you plan at the start of the semester, considering that you both have experience in that already? So are there any priorities in leading your team? Yeah, maybe you can say something about that.
For me, well, if I may share also our org stretch goal, since Georgina mentioned her vision. So, the org stretch goal for this year that I am helping spearhead is to integrate 100% of our members to our academic support, member support, and value-adding experiences.
Mhm.
So, going into each day, those are the three things, those three pillars are
Right.
the three things that I really want to hone
Nice.
in on every day. Because I believe that if we serve our stakeholders well, then they'll be able to buy into the things that we're doing, especially our advocacy. Because
Tama.
if I may share, advocacy is social entrepreneurship. So you may think like entrepreneurs like pera lang yan, diba? And it can be that way, and it's a good foundation.
Yeah.
But you can even push it further when
Right.
you earn, but you're also doing something good for
Right.
the community and
Tama.
society in general. And I think we can only do our sales, like get them integrated if they feel like they matter and
Yeah.
their quote unquote needs are being met.
Yeah, it couldn't be just about money.
Yeah.
Like it should be also something else that would money will just be like a vehicle for a bigger
sure.
cause, I guess. Yeah.
And yeah, just to follow up on what Gab said, maybe I can ask like, so you would say that it's more of, we always hear this in, and we always hear this in business, that it's more of a holistic like stakeholder. You're caring for all your stakeholders.
Big
If I may use that business term right there.
On the part of the USG naman in DLSU, aside from having a culture of having a vision, there's also a culture of building that vision on thrusts. So it's kind of like pillars also.
Right.
Yeah.
And for this year, the executive board talaga, we really built that vision on 3 thrusts, which is proactive student welfare, inclusive student representation, and progressive student empowerment. So, kind of like wordplay, but in those three thrusts, student is always in the middle, because that's basically what we really want to prioritize in the USG. So, I said earlier that we really focus on the everyday experiences of the students. Really want to be there every step of the way, from when they enter college and up until the day that they graduate, maybe even beyond. So, personally, naman, in my office, the Office of the President, I also have an office vision, which is genuine Lasallian leadership. And actually, when I was not president yet, that was really what I built my leadership style upon. So, genuine Lasallian leadership, talaga yung vision, cause we're in a pandemic. We're really disconnected from each other, really far apart. And I guess I really want to build upon a genuine relationship with the students.
Right.
Well, not only with the students, but also the officers that I work with, my colleagues, the DLSU admin. Because I really think that's what's lacking na, the genuine part of the dynamic. And so, there's the vision, there are the thrusts, and there's my personal vision. So I think in trying to quantify that naman in the USG, I guess we focus more on the quality side of it. Kasi I don't want the officers to get burnt out, of course, because of the circumstances that we're in. But also, it's really more of accomplishing successfully the executive board trust. So, for example, for progressive student empowerment, we're really trying to coordinate with the other schools when it comes to inter-university dialogues on national affairs or unity statements. So that's how we make sure that these trusts are being really followed. So kind of similar with Gab, actually, with the pillars, just different way of assessing it.
Galing. I like your office's vision or your personal take on your leadership. Because, you got a vision for the organization. But if you think about, the sheer number of people that you need to deal with, that's already
90,000.
very overwhelming.
For sure.
Hundreds, thousands. And then you put faces on those numbers, it's even harder because you got to deal with them and they're very different.
Yeah, thanks Georgina and Gab for that very vivid introduction and very substantial insights as well.
I'd
just
say
from that.
intense.
Intense. I was looking for the right word for that. So intense would be a very good way to describe it. But yeah, just to bring us back to what our episode's about actually right now. So again, The title of this episode is Building Your Team Up. So we want to share our insights with one another here. Some stories which our viewers can hopefully pick up and use in their own situations. And one of the things that actually goes into building your team up is actually finding, well, in the context of organizations, knowing what your culture is.
Basically, culture is defined as like a way of life or the way of doing things, the things that bring people together, and then the reason behind why they behave or why they actually act in a certain way. So that will be, I think there will be two aspects in an organizational culture. One would be your values, core values. What do you value? What you guys deem important, and that's gonna come out like makikita yan the way you guys like do things or your priorities. And then second probably would be relationships.
Right.
Culture would be about the people and basically how you guys relate to one another. So there will be like norms, either it's written or unspoken. There will be a way of relating in terms of like how you work and how you play. So sometimes like you come into a different org and like, oh, why are they like this? Why do they talk like this? It's because of their culture of relating to one another. So
Right.
basically what you said kanina is very on point. But I just probably highlight two things, which would be the values and then the relationships.
If you were going to tell Gab, someone from a different university, from a rival university at that, Ateneo.
We need to emphasize that.
Yeah, we need to. This is actually
I think we
UAAP.
should. No, I'm kidding.
But if you were to introduce the university student government of DLSU to someone outside of LaSalle in terms of your culture, what would you say? Yeah, your organization is like.
I think one word that I can use to describe the USG and all of its officers is passion driven. I guess it's kind of cliche to say that because, of course, student leaders are always passion driven and they're always fighting for student representation. But then in DLSU, you have to understand that people come from different political organizations. There are different beliefs, different cultures that make up a leader. So, student leaders, in a sense, are built up by their political parties. And, of course, once you go into the USG, you're non-partisan already. Your loyalty must be for the students. But looking into the dynamic of each person, of each individual in the USG, it's really built up by the organizations that you join with your social circles in the university. So, personally speaking, I come from a political organization before I became an elected. And one value, I guess, that has really been inculcated in me is faith talaga. So, it's it's not so much as being always praying or always going to church, but then there's a culture na of course I've adopted in my office na things always start and end with a prayer. So there are things like that, little things like that. There's also, well, we'd like to call it small brands of leadership, kumbaga. So there are things like being really consultative, being proactive, being responsive. So like these are the things that some leaders that I know still bring into the table. There's also there are students who are really passionate about national and civic affairs. So people are really driven by what they believe in the USG. And I think that's something na unique to us. When I say driven by the things that they believe in, it's not just parang putting your words into action, but then these are things that you really, really fight for, you're vocal about, that you talk to with a lot of people, maybe even hundreds or thousands of people. So that's the USG for us. That's a lot of it's a lot of people from different backgrounds mixing in with each other, but it works because at the end of the day, I think we're all for student welfare, improving student welfare inside the university.
From rivals to like,
Yeah.
okay,
For
now
sure.
we're one team.
Yep.
Like, I can't imagine actually how. I mean, I've experienced that before when I was in college as well, but yeah, I don't have a lot of experiences that now recently. Most of the things that I'm involved in would be more of like, oh, I recruit my own team, or like I hire my people. But being in that situation, the culture would be very very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, a lot of things in my head now. It's like I really want to ask
Yeah.
you questions.
And
I'll
I think
reserve
there's,
it later.
there's a lot of credit to be given to like student leaders in general, especially in terms of what in the context of what Georgina said. It's easier said than done to put aside your differences, especially if before you were at heads with each other for the most part. And finding that finding that common ground, it's easier said than done to just put aside the past maybe and work together. But I like what you said about at the end of the day, it's all about serving your constituents, the people you're serving, and that's very important because
Right.
if you don't do it from the top, from the leadership aspect. I was just thinking, paano na lang? How are the 19,000 students going to be led by their council if that doesn't happen? So I'd say that it must have been pretty challenging also to for you personally as a leader to do that. Was it or am I just really just thinking
Yeah,
out loud?
I guess challenging in a sense that sometimes people from other backgrounds you haven't met before, you haven't interacted with.
Right.
So I guess it's more of knowing new people rather than
Yeah.
knowing people from, an opposing
For sure.
perspective. So it's easier to interact and build new relationships when you start from scratch. But of
Yeah.
course, you have to forget about like if there's any bad blood between
Yeah.
between two opposing views or two people. But it's something you get over with pretty easily because it's really something that you have to do.
Right.
If you don't, then who else
Who will?
will suffer, diba?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what you said, kanina, na somehow with all the differences, having like something that will unite them, even on little things that would even like make you that will remind everyone that like, okay, this is a different setting. There's also a different way. Like we got little things that would help us build our culture. For
Yeah.
example, like in your case, like prayer, and then maybe other like little things that you guys do in your meetings. I think that's also really really good to have
Yeah.
to set your culture.
Yeah, and that goes a long way.
While listening to the conversation that the three of you are having, parang napa-Avengers Assemble moment ako.
Ready to serve.
When
Yeah.
everyone came out from Doctor Strange's rings, I was like, wow, they're
I
all
like
there.
that. But you're always part of our conversation, guys.
sure.
So feel
Thank
free
you,
also
thank
to
you, thank
to
you.
get in. Yeah, no problem.
You're
Yes,
Doctor
yes.
Strange as well, bro.
Oh,
Hindi.
oh, he's actually the one.
Okay, back to the conversation. But yes, when you mentioned passion nga, Georgina, our slogan kasi in AMA is passion meets profession.
Mhm.
Wow.
So yun, very connected in a way. But as for culture, if I were to say it in a sentence, because I think a sentence better explains it. It's they come for the opportunities, but they stay for the family. So it's kind of like a family, FAMALY. We inputted our org name.
Family.
So
yeah.
so you're one of those leaders who's big on acronyms.
Yes. But I didn't create that.
Okay,
Because
okay.
it was a culture that was already there when I joined.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. And if to talk more about it, when I was a freshie back on site, the best example of how I felt this family, we had this tambayan. In
Mhm.
Ateneo, it's called JSEC. So, yeah. And then, they call it the AMA tables. Well, at least Amans call it. That's what
That's
we
why I
call
couldn't
it.
get a table there when I go.
Kaya pala.
Maybe
Sorry,
next
sorry,
time you have
sorry.
to contact Gab first.
Maybe,
To get,
That's
maybe,
right.
maybe. But it's in that place. I remember nga the first time that I was invited to like sit down. It was mga okay, super I don't know why I remember the exact time, baka sobrang memorable pala. Pero mga 12:20 PM on like on I don't know the
Wow.
exact date, pero it was lunch. Tapos our block we couldn't find a seat. But we're
Right.
part of AMA na. And then I remember our TNT, that's the facilitator during like Ateneo's Corsem, who's also part of AMA. He saw us walking, trying to find a place. And then he invited us to sit there. And I remember it was so scary. I was like, sino yung mga to? And who are these people that are suddenly coming up to us saying hi, like welcome. Tapos yun pala mga course mates ko pala na upperclassmen.
right.
And it was from there that I realized the potential of the org.
Mm.
And biggest learning ko, a lot of people in our org, they're very receptive to you as long as you're open to them.
Right.
So I think 4 years later, that's something that I currently would like to continue to uphold
Wow.
because we're only as good as our members. And
For sure.
if they don't like being here, then we can't be an org.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's
but
powerful.
It's, indeed.
We'll actually see or actually ask them about how their organizations handle three specific areas that are somehow related to culture as well. So these are pressure, diversity, and motivation. How does your organization handle pressure? Maybe are there any things that that you do within USG to or within the council to reinforce pressure or alleviate pressure towards that end?
Well, when it comes to pressure, I'd like to first start off with siguro personal pressure that I've felt.
Yeah.
I guess growing up, it's always been like for me, I've always been assertive in a way. So I've always taken up leadership positions. Like it started with
Right.
like group works when you're young, and then you
Yes.
start joining all these orgs, and then when you go to college, you're suddenly like you have an opportunity to join the student council or government. So ever since I was young, I've always been assertive and extroverted. So
Right.
I talk a lot, I like sharing my ideas.
Good,
So when it comes to pressure, I guess I've always like put a little pressure on myself to do that, to assume these leadership roles and responsibilities. But also it's nice because I like what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. So it helps ease off the pressure. It helps ease off the pressure. But when it comes to the pressure on my position or really the responsibility of the entire USG, when it comes to fighting for students' rights and welfare, then it's I think it's an entirely different thing in a sense na you have a lot of voices to listen to.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people to appease, I guess.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
there are a lot of ideas that you have to understand and that you have to you really have to find a way every single day to compromise
sure.
all of these
I
ideas.
can't
And
imagine.
yeah. So every single day you're faced with a lot of ideas which usually it's really different.
Right.
And it's not only the students that you have I have to deal with, but also with the admin. So there are like a lot of comments, a lot of opinions, a lot of suggestions. So there's pressure on the USG to be able to arrive at a compromise where everybody would win.
Right.
And I think that pressure is faced by not only me, not only the executive board, but every single officer in the USG. To always listen, to always understand the everyday experiences. So, as president, ever since my term started, I've always tried to alleviate that pressure. You know, when it comes in simple acts din naman eh. Personally, I've made it a point to reach out, like just a simple message to
Yeah.
even your batch officers, batch presidents like that, or college presidents. Like, you just have to ask, how are you? How have you been? How are your projects? How can I help you? And it really eases off the pressure on them, because from the start, I've always wanted for other officers to see the president and the executive board not as people they should follow, but people that they will be inspired by.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So when it comes to pressure, it's always I'm not a fan of it, putting pressure.
Yeah.
So it's more of more inspiration, less on
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah. I'll have a
Right.
problem with that person really like who wants pressure.
But I'd say you can't really go away from the fact that there's always gonna be a healthy amount of pressure needed. I think you touched upon that, Georgina. I was just thinking that pressure is needed, just not to remain stagnant and instead continue to
Yeah.
grow. But I also like what you said about trying to alleviate it in a sense that it shouldn't go past where it's just supposed to be. If that makes
Right.
sense. Like there's always a healthy amount of pressure, and I guess that's different from organization to organization. What that amount is, whether you're a growing organization, maybe there's a bit more pressure to be had there, or whether you're, for example, in the USG, there's tons of pressure to be had there. So I like the focus towards actually going on that inspirational route. Something similar to what Gab said about that culture of cascading that from upperclassmen down to your younger peers.
Yeah,
Just had
because
to
I
say
think
that-
Aaron, pressure is an indication of responsibility. If you're taking responsibility for something, there will always be pressure, meaning you care about it. So you're gonna feel it. So if you don't have that, then I'll be actually a little bit worried because you probably don't
for
care
sure. Yeah.
about it, but you don't want to have too much of it that it's gonna break you and make you
Yeah.
ineffective to care for your responsibilities either. But I think
Yeah.
there's a healthy amount of pressure that should be in an organization that gives you, or like a small group, like if
Yeah.
there should be a pressure on your project, otherwise like you're not gonna be able to do that and submit to your prof and have a good grade, if nobody's feeling the pressure, and it's gonna be a little bit problematic.
Yeah.
But I like what Georgina said, like it's good for us to actually gauge that, how much of it are we feeling, and then
Yeah.
how is it helping us convert it to productivity instead of like stifling it. A lot of leaders, the tendency would be to pass the pressure on, like
Yeah.
I can't handle it. I just dissipate it and bring it all out to my team. But Georgina's mindset is like, no, I'm gonna try to handle it and alleviate it and like somehow distribute it to my people down there, but to what they can actually
What's healthy for them?
take. Yeah, what's possible for them to take in. I wonder how Gab would actually
Yeah.
experience that.
Gab, maybe you can enlighten us.
Baka, JR, ikaw na yung magkakaproblema sa akin. Kasi a lot of the pressure that I feel comes from me lang. So yeah. It's kind of opposite kay Georgina. But I think it comes with the role kasi of being
Right.
Sanggu
For sure.
president. For the
Right,
org
yes.
landscape, it's actually quite different. There are times
Right.
nga when I feel more pressure as a group mate rather
Mhm.
than as a president.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
actually what I feel on a daily basis is the pressure coming from myself to steer the ship.
Yep.
Not that if I may mention, not that it will be okay if wala akong ginagawa, but it's
Mhm.
better if meron. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of the mindset that I have na I put pressure on myself to try to make something happen, not just for myself but also for the org. One
Yeah.
thing nga that Georgina does that I also do is I take a lot of it. I put a lot of pressure on myself. I take the load, and I really enjoy messaging people. So
Yeah.
my personal experience, actually, I've done it in AMA. Actually, just last week,
Wow.
And
Yeah.
yun, I messaged all of the all of the people who I am working with kasi the way that AMA structured, it's the executive board, then the board of associates, then the department members, and
Right.
together us as active members we're around 244. So I messaged all of the department members. They're around
Wow.
199
Sheesh.
to the point that Facebook thought I was a spammer. So,
How
yung
are your fingers? They're probably like super pud-pud na.
medyo break muna from Messenger.
So-
Actually, I would like to apologize to some of the department members if ever they happen to
Shout
listen
out.
to this. Di ko pa kayo na-replyan. So sorry. Pero thank you for replying.
I hope you
to
guys
me
understand.
very fast. I'll reply
Yeah.
to you as soon as I can. And that's how I see it. And I guess if I were to give an insight, one of the ways that our org handles pressure in relation to the culture of family is uh in a sense taking out the positions and treating yourselves more as teammates
Right.
Right.
on the same level. Maybe when we represent outside or we have meetings that are more formal, that's where the positions come into place and the roles are uh, put out. But for internally, if you treat each other as a team on the same level, you can realize that you can go through the pressure together.
Yeah.
And there's
I like that.
there's nothing like there isn't a more happier experience going through it with the people you're leading and
For sure.
seeing them as more than just like your coworkers lang in
Yeah.
pushing an advocacy, but as actual people, like friends,
Yeah,
even
journeying with you. Yeah.
journeying with them and making something amazing out of it. So that's how I see it. They tell me nga, ano eh, may buhay ka ba? masyado atang maraming pressure yung linalagay mo sa sarili mo. But I always tell them, if it's for a better experience for them, it's good
Yeah.
enough for me.
Mhm.
And I will deal with my own personal things on my own time. So yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Of course, like pressure comes from different places. So like externally, maybe more of that Georgina. For sure, she also shared kanina na there's a lot of that inside also, but I think there's just massive external pressure
Yeah.
by the mere fact na yun yung role niya talaga. But
Yeah.
Gab, I think it's also valid to understand na it's legitimate pressure even if it comes from you.
Yeah.
It's the same value also na you still care about your organization, you care about your people, you care about the things that you do, even if it's just like from yourself.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's still needed to be handled well and dealt with in a right way. Yeah, thanks for personally sharing your
Yeah.
experiences.
I guess at the end of the day, JR, and this goes for Georgina and Gab also, that idea of trying to alleviate pressure, that's seen eh. It might seem like we like you guys say that you deal with it personally, but I believe there's more to that than just your own personal struggles.
Yeah.
There's something about leaders that or in this case everyone who tries to do that for others, everyone who tries to serve others, the people you're serving in maybe due time, they also see that and they learn to appreciate that. And when they get to what Gab said about them feeling that they're journeying together with their leaders and with the people around them, there's trust that allows them to debate, allows them to test each
Yeah.
other. And maybe just to cap that off into one word, this may seem very cliche, but that sort of work or that sort of mindset allows everyone to just be their authentic selves. Just contribute what they have, what they
Yeah.
what they're uniquely capable of to the table, and probably that's one blueprint towards an organization's success.
I'm actually thinking about the same lines, Aaron, because what you guys shared, both of you, somehow I could sum it up like really noticing each member or noticing my people. Even like messaging them, asking them how they are.
Yeah, for sure.
It really does a lot, and just the mere fact that you're able to observe and see like, okay, these are faces and these are people.
Yeah.
And I value that. I recognize that. It's very important to the culture and handling that pressure. There's a podcast that I listen to. She actually has like I think a book as well on new rules of leadership, and a lot of people would say, diba, like leadership, lead with dominance and then create followers, but that's actually not true. Even before, like people would just say that, but I don't think that's a rule even before. But now we should really lead with humanity and cultivate leaders. So that's what she's advocating, and I think that's what you guys are also doing. And so, good job. And that's a wrap for our part 1 for this episode, Building Your Team Up. Yep, you heard it right. We'll be back with more conversations with our leader friends, Gab and Giorgina. It's really nice to hear stories of how it feels like navigating org culture and dealing with different kinds of pressure. I hope that helps. See you again.
Make sure to catch part 2 by checking us out on our social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, or wherever you may get your podcast. We've yet to continue more shared tips and experiences with our amazing guests, Giorgina and Gab. So if you like our discussions, we'll be with you again next time. Again, we are Aaron and JR, and this has been Ain't a Boss, the only leadership podcast for highly stressed out students. Bye-bye.